Thank you. I would like to start by thanking the organizers of this event by the opportunity given to Mozambique to share our experience, what we have been trying to implement in our country in the past 15 years. So this is the topic of the presentation. This is a project funded by the World Bank from 2010 to 2016 and consists of some elements that's part of our eGovernment strategy, our ICT policy, and the ICT policy implementation strategy. These are the topics of my presentation. I'll be covering some aspects of the context, the three main components of the project, and then some challenges and perspective. It's a complex project. There were many ministries involved. I will try to, within the time given, have my presentation and invite my colleagues back in Mozambique to come through a video to share our experience. This project, as I was mentioning, has been funded by the World Bank to try to help the efforts of the government of Mozambique in implementing our eGovernment strategy. These are the main objectives of the project, to share our experience in implementing this project, also share some of the results and the lessons learned, and present the impact of the project. I'll start by sharing what is Mozambique for many people who don't know our country. These are the basic data that I tried to collect and systematize for this presentation. Try to show what is Mozambique, the country, the area, the population, the distribution of the population, and also a little bit of our political system. Because these are all elements that are essential to e-government. You have to know and understand the system in order to design and implement e-government system. In terms of population, about 26 million, but we have 11 provinces, 158 districts, and 53 municipalities. About close to 70% of our population, like many African countries, live in rural areas. So this is the challenge that we have to take into account when designing and implementing e-government initiatives. But I'm happy because we, on the second day, there were many principles that have been shared from yesterday. We started e-government from a public sector reform perspective. So it's not a technological project. So we started through, our country had in 2001 a public reform strategy approved by the government, and we designed the e-government strategy as a mechanism to drive the public sector reform. And these are the principles that are part of our public sector reform. So the roles for the government to focus on policies, regulations, and monitoring. So they serve the society, provide public service in some of the focus area, promote and regulate of the production and delivery of goods and services, outsourcing, and also here the role of the private sector in all areas of social and economic development of the country, including ICTs. Promote decentralized and participative administration. This has to do with e-participation. E-participation is not technological principle. It's part of the principle guiding the governance of the country. And also promote promoter and provider of infrastructure and basic services like education, health, water, and social. So in designing our e-government strategy, we look at these principles that are part of the governance. Through that, as I mentioned, I'm not presenting the Mozambique e-government strategy. I'm presenting one project. And for this specific project, we focus on two main areas. Connectivity development, due to the characteristics of our country. Contribute in the reduction of communication costs and on extension of the geographical coverage of the broadband network. This was one of the priorities. The second one, contribute in the improvement of efficiency and the transparent governance process through the use of e-government system. So the component of e-government is the second one. The first one was more on the infrastructure. As I was mentioning, this has been funded by the World Bank, implemented because of the two objectives by two ministries, the Minister of Transport and Communication, tasked with infrastructure, and also the Minister of Science, Technology, it's a long ministry, Higher Education, Technical Professional. This is the ministry tasked with ICT and e-government coordination. I'm from this ministry, by the way, and I'm working at the Ministry of Science and Technology, Higher Education, and Vocational Training. The main objectives of the first component is technical assistance, was to improve the capacity of national institutions to develop, implement, and monitor policies, strategy, legislation, and regulation. As I mentioned, this is part of the public sector reform. The second one is to ensure security and privacy in using electronic transaction system. Then in 2006, we were concerned about privacy and protection of citizens' life on the cyberspace. Introduced new telecommunication operator in the country. When we started the project, we had only one fixed mobile telecommunication operator and 2 mobile operators. And the coverage was not sufficient in terms of infrastructure. We needed to change that. And the approach that we followed was to influence the market by introducing new operators on the telecommunication infrastructure rather than on policy measures. So these are the main activities in the technical assistance component. Training. Through the project, in the 6th year, we trained close to 11,000 public employees in many different areas. But as you can see, most of them was on the basic use of ICT so that they could be the operators and providers of service. Of course, we focused on some of the technical areas and also on change management, on process reengineering, because this is part of the e-government strategy. And this is the impact that we're having that we can perceive now in the country as many more public officers can operate and use information system in the process of providing public service. The second one is on the preparation of the national broadband strategy. This document has been is ready since last year. It's in the process of its approval. Revision of the law, of the telecommunication law. So we are working on the legal framework to see which are the laws that must be enacted or changed to adapt to the phase that we're covering. So the law has been revised. We do have a new law from last year. It's called Law 4 2016. It's a new telecommunication law that addresses the new context in terms of convergence of technology and also the new technological aspects of technology neutrality. Now it's part of the law, and the companies and operators can play in Mozambique guided by this law. The preparation of the electronic transaction law. This law, we're happy that after 11 years, finally, in 2017, we're a little bit ahead than Namibia, has been approved, and it's law now. It took 11 years due to the complexity and all these aspects that has been. So we look to the legal aspect because we believe that this is part of an important element. The second objective is connectivity. We have to address connectivity, was to improve the access to connectivity service for strategic users. We understand that would be impossible for all the population, although theoretically it's necessary for everyone, but we have to start from somewhere. So we selected areas, students, universities, public officers. We set up community multimedia centers so where the citizen can go and have and access the connectivity as a shared services, because that would be manageable. But of course, through the telecommunication operators, we introduce change so that they can cover more areas of the country and provide more service to the citizen. Extend the coverage of telecommunication network service in rural areas. This was one of the second objectives. So the activities that we implemented, here are some of the results. So we established the Mozambique Internet Exchange. This for us is an important technological platform to allow that we do balance the traffic and we make sure that we use our international capacity when it's really needed. And we keep the national traffic national. Extension of the government. We do have a government electronic network. We started in 2002. Now these networks cover almost 600 institutions in all the provinces of the country. This is the government platform. By the way, I wanted to share that when we started this, we then in 2007, we learned a little bit of experience from Estonia. We didn't adopt the X road, but many of the elements of the government we learned from the X road then in 2007, and we designed our own solution, and we implemented. I was one of the students from the EPFL that visited Estonia in 2006. As part of the student, we've learned and we made the contact and we've learned through a lot from Estonia and we're using in our strategy. Increased government international capacity. So we do have submarine cables landing in Mozambique in our coast. So we have the chance to buy international capacity through the cable. So this is what we did for the government, but also for the university. Establish 29 community multimedia centers. These are the new community multimedia centers that we added to the one already existing. Today we do have in Mozambique close to 60 community multimedia centers distributing the same number of districts to serve the community. Here it's where the citizen in the rural areas with limited access in terms of financial capacity go and access to e-services promoted and supported by the government. These are some of the results. For the Mexi project, we supported all the process of the introduction of the third mobile operator, that's called Movitel, the one in the middle. And these are the main fiber optic infrastructure in the country. These are the change in the last 6 years. Through the policy change within the context, allowed private operators to enter in the country, and in less than 3 years, Movitel was able to lay down 22,000 kilometers of fiber in the country. And this is what we have today to implement. This infrastructure is allowed, and this is our, the former incumbent telecom also has improved its infrastructure because of the competition. And that's the second mobile operators. And then we do have, yes, we can discuss if this is good to have 3 different fiber optic infrastructure in the country, but this is what we have today, and we have increased the coverage in the country. We will show, as part of the policy adopted by our government, the increase in the number of customers of mobile operators. And we believe that if we have close to 17 million, it's not 17 million users, customers of mobile operators. And we all know that in a country where you have 3 mobile operators, you must have duplication. But we're happy that this is the number that we have today. And most of the people access internet and e-services using mobile technology provided by the mobile operator. We're still working to try to improve by introducing new technology. And you can see the behavior. All this change in the telecommunication market is the result of the policies approved by the government and also of the legal framework that the government was introducing in the country to allow that other actors in the society, like the private sector, could play their role within a consistent and stable legal framework. This is one of the projects we call Mozambique Research and Education Network. I'm happy that today, this morning, in the opening session, the ACP Secretary General mentioned about the ACP Connect. This is the Mozambique NREN. We are part of the Africa Connect, and in Mozambique, all the higher education institutions, all the research institutions, as you can see the distribution are all interconnected as part of one single network. We share access. We make sure that the connectivity in the universities in the campus, we're building wireless networks so that students could have access to improve their process of studying, learning, but also researcher in their research process. It's a separate network that is in the country, and you can see the distribution. This is the measure. Sometimes, and even this afternoon, there was a question, what is the value of ICTs for social and economic development, mainly in rural areas? We went to the Community Multimedia Center, and we measured the number of users of the different services in which area. And we're happy to see that there's a growth on the user of the Community Multimedia Center by the people from the rural areas in their own daily activities in the main area, like education, like health, like public services. So it's important to have this kind of platforms in the rural areas to allow that people. Maybe the last component is the one that's related to the topic of this, is e-government. I'll be fast because I do have a lot. So it was support the government. We do have an e-government strategy that has been approved in 2006. We have 6 flagship projects. The Maxi project supported 5 of the flagship projects. I'm implementing common communication platform, citizen identity, business and legal registration, land property, and government horizontal through a government portal. These are some of the results that we're having on this, in this area. We have implemented the e-government fundamental. For us, e-government fundamentals, the interoperability platform for the government of Mozambique that we're implementing, the land registry, the provision of IT equipment, implementation of civil registry, through the eCRVS, civil registration and vital statistics. This is our interoperability framework, approved by the government in 2009, and we're busy implementing. We're a bit delayed on the implementation of this architecture because we were waiting for the Electronic Transaction Act that has as one of the chapters the interoperability framework. Now that has been approved, we are busy finalizing the regulation of interoperability so that there's law and norms to make sure that all the public entities could work and use implementing this platform. This is one of the trials that we did to implement the interoperability framework, even before the law. We went to some of the services, licensing of tourism activities, commerce activity. So all this we implemented, and they are working now using interoperability framework, even before the law. So they are all working. using our data center, the government network connectivity, and all the different services to provide better service to citizens and mainly to the public sector. This is for the land registry. This is what we are doing in terms of digitizing the land ownership and property in the country. We are showing here 6 provinces, but the 6 provinces, the other 4 provinces are supported by another project that I don't have data to show, but this is the work that we are doing now. This is our data center that has been launched in 2015, and we are now busy migrating some of the information system to this data center. Our plan in Mozambique is to build 4 data centers. This is the first one. We're busy looking for partnership and mobilizing resources to construct the second one, so that we will follow one of the principles that's in our intellectual transaction law, which is the localization of the content in the country for sensitive data of our citizens. That's part of the law. So we need this kind of infrastructure. This is the slide about challenge and perspective. And one of our main objectives for coming and sharing this experience is to identify partners to help us face this challenge that for the coming months and years. Establishment of the competent authority for provision of government services, establishment of the Mozambique digital certification system, personal data protection, defining clearly by law the limits of the usage of personal data in the public administration. The law covers this aspect, but we think that we need a regulation that clearly specifies the limits of the use of private data. Regulation of the eGovernment interoperability framework, as I was mentioning. The architecture is waiting for this document, in order that we do have a legal component, but also technological. The technological is ready, but the legal is not, and we're having some problems. Regulation of the use of the government data centers. So there's a concept, a business model for the government data center. Some of them want to use as a income generating to allow that private sector also as used. So we need to regulate and see who is assessing for which area and for which kind of services. So this is our challenge. And as I'm mentioning, this part of the recently approved electronic transaction law that we're busy. This is our challenge moving forward from now. In conclusion, it's a consolidation of the legal and regulatory environment, have CMCs as a digital platform to provide the development in rural areas, improve our internet access and participation in the cyberspace through platforms like the Mozambique, take the benefits of broadband to the rural areas, and also use Moranet as a platform for science and technology. And we believe that if we implement all these ideas, our countries in the coming 5 to 10 years will have a different perspective in terms of using ICTs. And this is my last slide. Thank you. I see that I'm last. I don't know if I have 4 minutes to invite my colleagues from Mozambique. And I think that it would be important to share some lessons. It's a 5-minute video only, so I don't know if I'm allowed to ask the technical people to share. Please, the technical people, can help me in bringing my fellow citizens from home.
O Ministério da Ciência e Tecnologia, Ensino Superior e Técnico Profissional, através do projeto do Governo Eletrónico de Infraestruturas de Comunicação, MECSIP, financiado pelo Banco Mundial, implementou políticas na área de tecnologias de informação e comunicação, TICs. Este projeto tem como objetivo o desenvolvimento da conectividade e da transparência e boa governação. A atividade económica em Moçambique é um grande imperativo para o desenvolvimento e avanço tecnológico. Neste contexto, o Governo está a apostar na criação de ferramentas que impulsionem este desenvolvimento.
O projeto eBaú nasce da necessidade do Governo criar uma melhoria de serviço ao cidadão. Quero dizer que todo o conjunto de atividades do Estado e a prestação de serviços que o Estado tem que prestar ao cidadão tem que estar de uma forma sistematizada, facilitada.
Quando começamos com os balcões de atendimento único, começamos sem sistemas informatizados, portanto o cidadão, mesmo que estava num único edifício, num único compartimento, digamos, mesmo assim tinha que passar por cada uma das pessoas que estão, ou dos operadores de cada entidade que está dentro do baú, para obter o serviço. Usando as tecnologias de informação e comunicação e indo ao eBaú, isso já não é preciso. Quer dizer, quando o cidadão vai ao baú, é atendido por uma única pessoa, já não precisa procurar as várias instituições dentro daquele compartimento.
Os processos eram instruídos manualmente e tinham várias intervenções. E nesse processo manual, os prazos, concluíamos os processos dentro de um prazo de 10 dias úteis. E com a introdução da plataforma integrada de prestação de serviço, reduzimos esse prazo para 4 dias para as empresas sujeitas à vistoria e 1 dia para as empresas isentas à vistoria.
O apoio do projeto MECSIP foi na disposição da infraestrutura tecnológica que foi colocada à disposição do Ministério da Indústria e Comércio, sob o qual corre a aplicação de eBaú.
Com a implementação desta plataforma, efetiva-se a melhoria da comunicação entre os diversos setores do Estado e assegura-se maior celeridade de transparência no acesso à informação.
Os processos agora são eletrônicos, já não precisamos procurar arquivos nos armários, é tudo via sistema.
Enquanto que antes tinha que ser um arquivo físico, onde um técnico tinha que levar 4 a 5 dias ou um mês mesmo a localizar um processo.
Estamos a eliminar papel. Os processos todos são desmaterializados. E o back-office recebe-os do formato eletrónico.
Os processos dão entrada no front office, eles mandam os processos para aqui, nós verificamos etapa por etapa para ver se há anomalias ou não.
Com esta plataforma, os investidores moçambicanos viram o seu sonho a tornar-se uma realidade, de constituir empresas em tempo útil e pela simplificação dos processos.
O eBaú tem impacto no que nós chamamos melhoria do ambiente de negócios, portanto, o doing business. O número de passos que o empresário precisa para ter o seu alvará finalmente emitido foi reduzido, porque os custos para esse cidadão ter o licenciamento da sua atividade econômica também reduzem.
Trabalho numa empresa de consultoria e estou muito feliz como eles têm vindo a trabalhar. O que eu levaria mais ou menos 3 a 4 dias, eu posso fazer em 1 dia e no mesmo sítio.
Facilitou bastante, já não tenho reclamações com os meus clientes, consigo antecipadamente responder às exigências dos meus clientes.
As tecnologias de informação são hoje um elemento essencial para o crescimento económico e o desenvolvimento humano.
O eBaú não tem território. Significa que um empresário pode iniciar o licenciamento, digamos, do seu empreendimento ou da sua empresa no baú de Xaxai e levantar o alvará no baú de Nancala.
O nosso foco é, de facto, melhorar o ambiente de negócio no país. Esta plataforma vai ajudar, as pessoas que trabalham connosco vão ajudar, as instituições que estão ligadas a nós estão a colaborar. Está satisfeito o cidadão, está satisfeito o governo, estamos nós satisfeitos, os doadores são satisfeitos, o próprio Doing Business, o grupo Doing Business do Banco Mundial, está satisfeito.
I had to share.
Do we have one question? Yes, please, microphone. Here.
First of all, I would like to congratulate Mozambique for all good effort. My question is about infrastructure. I see that you launched more than 22,000 optical fiber in 3 years. I would like to know if it is only a government finance this infrastructure or you will load a private operator to invest also. My second question is about the national broadband provider. In which business model they are working? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for these questions. Really that address some of the challenges in Africa. In our country, 5 years ago when we started, we had this problem, and there was a debate. How do we go? Do we mobilize the government to use from its very limited resource to invest in broadband, or we change the laws to enable, open the market, and enable that the private sector actors would come with finance to explore the opportunity and implement. We went for the second one. In fact, we didn't have the option of the first one because our government didn't have financial resources. So we went to the second one. The government approved laws and regulation to enable the entrance of private investment in this specific area of telecommunication. So that was a private sector investment that deployed, but within the rules set up by our telecommunication regulation through the law of the telecommunication law that I just mentioned, that we had to change the telecommunication law to enable the participation of the private sector. So that was the private sector, and we're happy of the investment. We were having debates about the viability of that approach, but we were courageous to make mistakes. We're not sure how it would go, but the results are encouraging now.
Thank you. One more question.
The second question, it was about the broadband strategy. The model is more or less the same to allow the participation of private sector, and also in those areas that are not economically viable, the government would participate in terms of putting investment to allow that no one's left behind, mainly the people in rural areas when it comes to broadband services, because this will be enabling e-government and all other e-services for social and economic development. But the strategy has been completed. We are now in the political process to take it to the Council of Ministers so that it's approved, so that it becomes a process. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm from Indonesia. How many villages you have in Mozambique, and why do you just set up only 60 CMCs? Yeah. Can you explain more about CMCs?
Okay, thank you very much. The Communication Multimedia Center is one of the DIA projects in Mozambique, because from the beginning, we thought that this is one element for e-government, but mainly for access of the people in rural areas with very limited financial resources to the e-government. Our desire is to connect at least one community multimedia center in each district. As I mentioned, we have each district. At least, I mentioned we have 158 districts now. Yes. But we are struggling of the decision where to put the resource. And we have to balance our intervention. So we're investing in the infrastructure on the telecommunication. We're investing in putting infrastructure to rural areas. We're investing in putting infrastructure for research and academia. We cannot do everything 100%. So we're doing slowly. We started from 11, we moved to 20, and now with this investment, with a specific investment, it's a credit from the World Bank, we asked it to include 20 CMCs, but along the process, the bank allowed that we'd increase the number from 20 to 29. So we're happy that, of course, we're now looking for partnership for other projects, even from the budget, the government budget, to see if we can cover all the 158 districts to have CMC. But I would leave a remark here. A district of Mozambique could be geographically bigger or 2 times than Estonia. It's important to take this remark. But we understand that with our financial possibility and the population that's dispersed in all these big geographical areas, we have to find a point within a reasonable distance that people can walk to go and have access, and also use wireless technology to allow the extension of these services. If you ask me from the theoretical point of view, I would think that we need 1 CMC per administrative post. This would be my answer theoretically. But in my life as advisor and working for the government, I've been listening that we sometimes, the ICT people, we dream a lot, and we don't put our feet on ground. That's sometimes important to equate our desires and capability in terms of implementation. That's why we're careful in setting the targets so that we would have manageable projects in terms of implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this positive case study.
Thank you. Thank you very much.